For some reason, I never thought about posting my story here. I've posted it on YouTube comments before, and I think LV even talked about it on my YouTube show before, unrelated to paranormal. I interview families with missing children/family members to help get the word out and bring them home. I am a very normal, simple 41-year-old guy with zero history of any mental illness apart from a little bit of anxiety. No bad medical history, drug use, etc. Drank in my teens and 20s when I would go out to bars and stuff, but never had any bad habits or anything like that. Anyway, it started when I was 5 or 6, which would have been 1988 to 1989. I would see what I called the bloody man walking up and down the stairs in my house. I can't remember his face. Not sure if it's 'cause I never looked at it or he didn't have one. I just remember it would never be middle of the night but more like bedtime that this would always happen. He had a bandage on his head that was bloody and a hospital gown. I remember having a feeling that I knew this wasn't right, but I wasn't scared. Not sure if the lack of fear was due to being told not to be scared somehow or if I was so young I just didn't know to be scared. Anyway, this person I would come to learn later in life, was my uncle. He had been beaten in the head with a baseball bat, came home, brain swelled in his sleep, and was taken to the hospital by the family in the morning where he died several days later. This was August of 1982. I was born in December of 1983. There's much more to the story, both his life and that night itself, but I'll hold off on that for now. I saw the bloody man somewhere in the range of 15 to maybe 30 times. Then my mom and I moved out of there to get our own place. This was my grandfather's house, and I was gone for 5 years. Around 12 or 13 years old, I moved back to that house. While I never saw the bloody man again, it was far from the last paranormal encounter I would have in that house. After being back around 5 to 6 months or so, one day I was showing my little sister how to play a Sonic the Hedgehog game, and as I'm explaining it to her, as clear as day, a female voice says her name. My sister instantly got up and went to the door and said, "Yeah, Ma?" And I was frozen solid in fear. This was for 2 reasons. The first was I knew for a fact that that wasn't my mom's voice that said my sister's name, it was my grandmother's, who had been dead for 10 years. The second thing I knew that my little sister didn't seem to realize was the voice had not come from downstairs. It came from right at our feet by the foot of the bed. I just sat there frozen in fear while my sister yelled for my mom, who of course said she had been washing dishes and never called her. My sister then sulked while walking back to the bed. "What's the matter?" I asked her. She said, "I hate those stupid stairs. The bloody man is scary." So I started asking her who had told her about the bloody man, was it any of my friends, etc., etc. She was in shock that I knew who the bloody man was and was crying for me to believe her that she really sees him, and none of my friends had spilled the secret to her. She was about 5 at this time. Same age I used to see him. The next part of this story involves all my friends. Every sleepover after hearing my grandmother's voice, my bedroom door started shaking. Thinking it might be my stepfather, we would open it as it was shaking, and no one would be standing there. Upon realizing this, the shaking would terrify us, so every sleepover for about a year the door would shake and these horrible claw-like scratching sounds would go down the door. My friends and I would fight to hide in the corner on the bed while it would happen. So, if you're keeping count, that's me and my sister who both saw the bloody man and heard the female voice, and 3 of my friends who witnessed the shaking and clawing at the door. 5 people. But believe it or not, the last part of the story gets even crazier. 1943, we sold the house and moved a couple cities over about a year later. One thing I forgot to mention is the reason I moved back at 12/13 is my grandfather had a bunch of mini strokes and was in a wheelchair, so my mom moved back in to take care of him. Well, after we moved away I told my mom it surprised me that she sold her childhood house, and she talked about all the bad memories she had there that had replaced the good. And then she said, plus Grampy started creeping me out towards the end. It turns out he had started telling her, "Your brother's still here. Every night, up and down those goddamn stairs. Up and down, up and down. He saw the bloody man too. His son." But that's not the craziest part. About 7 to 8 years after selling the house, The guy that bought it saw my uncle in a gym and beelined it towards him demanding to know what the hell is in that house. He, his wife, and 2 of his kids kept seeing the uncle around the house. I made it a point to walk by the house to try to catch someone coming out once I heard the gym story, and one day I caught the youngest son leaving. I introduced myself and asked him about what they saw, and he said he was too young at the time. But his mom, dad, and 2 brothers would always see my uncle behind them in mirrors in the house. They got rid of the mirrors and it stopped, he said. I don't quite understand that part because mirrors had nothing to do with it for me, but still, that's 3 people in my family, 3 friends, and 4 people of a different family that essentially saw the same thing, or heard it. LD give anything to learn exactly what the heck went on in that house all those years. Anyways, that's my story.